I'm Mitchell Renz, host of the Raiders Report, and coming up here on today's show, my 10-step plan for a perfect Raiders free agency. Antonio Pierce, I trust you, man, but I know this is your first time as a head coach. Tom Telesco, going to be the first time with him, with Antonio Pierce. The bottom line is I have a lot of faith in both of those men, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's a bad thing to ask for a little bit of help, and maybe they do. Maybe they don't. If you come across this video and you want to use my 10-step plan for a perfect Raiders free agency, I would greatly appreciate it, and I personally think it's going to help us get a Lombardi trophy. Today's show is presented by Panda Supps, and I wanted to show y'all because I don't just talk it, I use it too. I use Panda Supps protein. This one is clear because it's the mint chocolate chip one, so it's green. You can't really see it. It's also... I got the Cinnamon Toast Crunch as well. Both of these proteins, some of the best protein I've ever had. I'm telling you right now, this mint chocolate chip one, it's got actual chunks of like mint chocolate chip cookies in there. If you like Thin Mints, if you like mint chocolate chip ice cream, this is the best protein I've ever had. And I mean it. Use code Raiders for 20% off at pandasupps.com. So what I did this show, it's because free agency is right around the corner. And, dude, free agency is the most fun time of the year because we're going crazy, we're going wild, we're doing breaking news left and right on this show. Some important dates, though, for the nation. The legal tampering period is March 11th, 12 p.m. Eastern Time to March 13th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. This is like the time of the year where players can, it's like, the Las Vegas Raiders sign XYZ player. Then on the new league year, March 13th is when it becomes officially official. So there's going to be players that start going places. There's going to be players that start signing. It's just not officially official until March 13th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So more background information here on the Raiders free agency just because I do think it's important for the type of video that I made. Cap space is at $47.8 million. That is according to Spotrac. The dead cap hit for the Raiders is $15 million, which is the 17th most. They do have the 10th most in salary cap space as it stands right now. Players signed to the roster, they have 56, which is the 11th most. Also, the Raiders are going to have plenty of money to spend, and they have a lot of needs that they need to be able to go out there and address. Like I'm talking offensive line, defensive tackle, quarterback, right? They have both needs on both sides of the football. Telesco said at the Combine, he is going to be more active in free agency than in years past. So I'm expecting these guys to go out there and go balls to the wall a little bit. Antonio Pierce also knows that he doesn't have a long coaching leash, and if he wants to make it happen, yeah, Telesco is going to be the one making the calls, but I really hope that Antonio Pierce does have a say in some of the signings that end up going down. So coming up here is going to be my 10-step free agency plan for the Raiders. There's going to be a lot of numbers involved. I'm going to go out and I'm going to tell you why I'm doing certain things. But before free agency even begins, I want you to hit that subscribe button because we're going to be live for free agency. Like I'm telling you, starting Monday, March 11th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, I'm going live. We're going live an hour before the tampering period starts because I know as soon as it happens, there's going to be players that get signed left and right. I'm going to be live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and if I can, I'm going to be live all freaking day. You are not going to find better free agency coverage around the Las Vegas Raiders than here, so make sure you're subscribed because we're going to have a ball. Before we start, my 10-step free agency plan is based on the Raiders trading up for Jaden Daniels, and the only reason why I have this is because I am a believer that if you were to ask Antonio Pierce, Tom Telesco, in a perfect world, this is perfect free agency plan, who's your number one quarterback that you want? It's Jaden Daniels, and I do think that everything that the Raiders are doing is focused around having Jaden Daniels as the quarterback. They literally interviewed offensive coordinators with Daniels in mind, so I think that entering free agency, they are going to have the idea of trying to get Jaden in the back of their mind here. Let's go to the first step here for my free agency plan. It's you got to make sure that you cut the fat. Like, you get rid of the players that you know are not going to be a part of this organization. That way you can save up to get a little bit of extra money. That way go out and get some players that actually matter. So to me, there are 9 players that I would cut right now. I would cut them immediately entering free agency. Jimmy Garoppolo and Hunter Renfrow. Now, friendly reminder that those are both post-June 1st cuts. Every other player that you see on screen is a player that would get cut right now. So Brandon Faison, Jacob Bobenmoyer, Zach Gentry, Janorius Robinson, Wilkerson, Britton Brown, and then Brian Hoyer. I am moving on from all those players, which in total saves the Raiders $43.8 million. So based on my plan, the Raiders wouldn't get, $36 million from Garoppolo and Renfro until after June 1st. So that's a big chunk of that money. So the Raiders technically do not get that money until after June 1st. Based on the other players that I cut, the Raiders would get an extra $7.8 million to spend right away, which would put them at $55.6 million. However, the way that NFL teams, the way that the Raiders should operate, and you have Tom Delaney, who's a very smart man in terms of the cap, you would treat this offseason as if you did have that extra $36 million paired with that $7.8 million, which then when you pair it with the Raiders' current salary cap situation is $43.8. So you add all those numbers together. If I'm the Raiders, I am looking at this offseason saying that we could have potentially $91.6 million to spend. Now, think about, your things that you buy, right? You're not going to spend your entire paycheck right away. You got to be able to save some. You got to be able to store some. So the way that I'm looking at it is this. If you do plan on drafting Jayden Daniels, you're going to be paying him over $6 million per year in his first year. So half of the money I'm going to save, $12 million for Jayden. The other $6 is going to be for the other players that we end up drafting. I'm also going to save an extra $15 million. I'm going to call it just in case money. Money if I want to extend a player. Money in case I need to restructure a certain contract. Money that in case I want to bring back a guy like an Isaiah Paulomeo or some of these other players on cheaper one-year deals that we're not necessarily looking at. So basically, when I did my free agency plan, I cut some guys, I saved some money away. I got $64.6 million to go out and spend in free agency. So what's my first move? I'm going to go out and I'm going to make a splash. So here's your opportunity to make a splash down in the comments. Who are you hoping the Raiders sign in free agency the most? Like, it is your number one priority. Think about, right, man? Payday just happened. You got your check. What's the first thing you're spending your money on? Because the first thing that I'm doing is coming up right after this YouTube ad break. Number 2 on my list, it is sign Christian Wilkins. Christian Wilkins, outside of Chris Jones, is the number 1 defensive tackle out there available. And according to Spotrac, his market value is $20.2 million. I'll admit, he might end up going for a little bit more considering the fact that Justin Madubuike got tagged and considering the fact that he is, outside of Chris Jones, the number 1 defensive tackle out there. The reason why that I like this pairing here is because Wilkins has played underneath Patrick Graham, which Patrick Graham was the Dolphins' defensive coordinator back in 2019. He also played with Raiders defensive line coach Rob Leonard, who was a part of the Miami Dolphins organization in 2019 and 2021. And outside of Chris Jones, he is that guy. He is a big-time body dude up the middle. Daniel Jeremiah recently talked about pairing him next to Max Crosby. If you put Wilkins on the interior, he's going to eat up double teams. It's going to free up Tyree Wilson. It's going to free up Malcolm Kuntz. It's going to free up Max Crosby. And if the Raiders are winning with just those 4 fronts again, get ready. It's going to be another great year for Patrick Graham. So after spending $20.2 million, and the way that I'm doing this is just based on the first year. Like, Wilkins is probably going to get a deal of, If I'm the Raiders, I give Wilkins a 3-year deal because Crosby's got 3 years left on his contract. So $64.6 million minus $20.2, I am left with $44.4 million to spend. Let's go to number 3 here. I'm going to sign offensive guard Damien Lewis. And the reason why I'm rolling here with Lewis is he's not the best guard available in free agency, but he's a really good fit for what the Raiders currently have. His current Spotrac market value is $7.4 million per year, which is why I went this route. And he's played 2,624 snaps at left guard in his 4-year career. The other reason why I like this is because I do anticipate that Andre James is going to leave. I had a source tell me at the Super Bowl that Andre is not going to be returning to the Raiders unless, they give him by far the most money he's offered, which I don't think is going to happen. On top of that, though, Lewis, then you can kick him in at left guard. Dylan Parham ends up playing center, and now you only have to look for 2 other starting offensive lineman positions. On top of that, he played right guard at LSU with James Craig, where Craig was great. Lewis was also great, and even though that now Damien plays left guard, the fact that he has that continuity with the Raiders' new offensive line coach is the reason why I'm okay giving him $7.4 million. I think it's a really good deal. So let's go back to the calculator here. Money to spend after signing Damien Lewis. I had $44.4 million. Minus $7.4 million, you got $37 million left. If you're under the age of 18 and you watch this show and your parents ask, did you learn any math today? The answer to that is yes. If you want your kids to learn more math, guess what? I never thought I'd say it. We're teaching math here on the Raiders Report. Let's go to number 4. I got re-signed Germaine Aliotti. The offensive tackle position is a fickle one in this offseason, and the reason why I am re-signing Illuminor is because if my plan is to trade up for Jaden Daniels, what if you don't have another second-round pick? You're obviously going to use that first-round pick on Jaden, so that means potentially you're going to have to try to find a starting right tackle in the draft, third round, fourth round, or beyond. That scares me. Like, if I'm going to invest in Jaden, I'm going to spend some extra money on my offensive line, and I don't know why Germaine gets ripped on as much as he does, but, like, this is one of the best offensive tackles available in free agency. His PFF market value is $7.3 million. I will say on this video, anytime a player had a SPO-Track value, I use theirs. If not, I use PFF market value. But he's played 1,845 snaps at right tackle the past 2 seasons. And Illuminor is coming off a career year, and the fact that he wants to remain in Vegas is very important. Illuminor is vocal on social media. I like that kind of stuff. And when he talks, I feel like he's a Raider. I've had multiple conversations with Germaine, and that is a dude that is really, truly confident, loves what Antonio Pierce is doing, and is a great, great locker room type of fit player. So you bring him back, you put him at right tackle. Now, all we have to do is just find one more starting offensive guard spot. So after getting Germaine Illuminor at $7.3 million, that leaves the Raiders now with $29.7 million as we continue our 10-step plan for the perfect free agency. I know that some people like Germaine. I know some people don't like Illuminor. Do you want the Raiders to re-sign Germaine Illuminor? Give me a yes. Give me a no down below. I say yes because I am worried if the Raiders want to trade up for Jaden and you don't get another offensive tackle in free agency, that you're going to be stuck potentially starting somebody like a Thayer Munford at right tackle or somebody else who you draft. If the Raiders don't plan on drafting Jaden Daniels and you want to try to go out and find another right tackle in the first 2 rounds, there's tackles to be had. But again, this plan is based on Jaden Daniels, and because of that plan, I am going to re-sign Germaine Illuminor. Let's go to number 5 here. It's re-sign Greg Van Roten. Before you guys freak out and say, Mitch, I thought this was the perfect plan, I'm trying to build up front, okay? If I'm going to trade up for a quarterback, I want to make sure that Jaden Daniels, who's very skinny, and whoever the quarterback is, we have a good offensive line. I am not signing Greg Van Roten to be the starting right guard, though. I am signing Greg Van Roten to be the 6th man, the backup. And if we need to be able to go out there and use him, guess what? We can go out there and use him. PFF has him as a market value at $3 million. And he started at right guard last season for the Raiders with 1,025 snaps. His 75.3 PFF grade was the 7th best out of 79 guards graded by Pro Football Focus. So, like, I know Greg Van Roten is not a slam dunk, but at 34 years old, if I just need to be able to find another piece to just have as an extra backup offensive guard based off the year that he had last season, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. So when you think about the money that you went out and that you spent for Greg Van Roten, it's $3 million. It's not a lot of money. And when I consider some of the other depth pieces that this Raiders team is going to need at offensive guard, like, I'm okay with going with a guy that was already a part of this regime. I know Germaine and Greg have a good relationship, and I also know that he's got a good relationship with Dylan Parham as well. So the fact that it would be Dylan Parham, maybe Greg Van Roten, if you don't find another guard potentially in the draft, and Germaine Illuminor, you're still building a cheap, solid offensive line. And the reason why I'm doing this, again, it's a cheap value. So I got 29.7 minus $3 million. I got $26.7 million left to spend in free agency. And I still got 5 more things that we got to do. Before I get into those 5 things left on my free agency plan, I woke up bright and early this morning. I got a good workout in. I've been trying to lose some weight because I know y'all kick my butt during the season. I know during free agency we're going to be having a few beers as well. I've never done a Panda Sups boot, but you know what? I bet you the owner there probably wouldn't mind. He's a diehard Raider fan, watches the show all the time. But if you're looking for some new protein, and if you're like me and you're like, Mitch, I got a sweet tooth, guess what? Panda Sups protein, it's the best protein that I've ever had. And when you consider how freaking good it is, like when you're talking 30 grams of protein, 4 grams of carbs, 2 grams of sugar, 1 gram of fat, 150 calories. It's a multi-stage fast and slow release. I like Panda Sups because it's great protein after a workout. It's also really great when I'm trying to cut and I'm trying not to eat at work, right? If you're somebody who's trying to fast, maybe you just need a little something. Sometimes Panda Sups protein can get me through the day because when I just eat like whey protein and then I drink it, like I get hungry really quick. When I drink a protein shake with Panda Sups, it keeps me like not hungry for at least a few hours or so. It tastes great. I've also been using a ton of my Ninja Creamy, so if you got one of them, Panda Sups Protein is the ones to try. These are their 2 new flavors that they just dropped. I also love that they're chocolate ice cream, they're vanilla ice cream, their fruity one tastes literally like the milk left from Fruity Pebbles. Those are all very, very solid. So bottom line, if you want to get into better shape, go try out Panda Sups. Code Raiders, hopefully you can remember that, at pandasups.com. That link's going to be available to you all down in the comments and in the description of today's show. Let's go to number 6 here in my free agency plan. It's sign Kendall Fuller, the cornerback. The Raiders are interested in signing Fuller. He's probably the top corner out there on the market right now. Jalen Johnson just signed a 4-year, $76 million deal with the Chicago Bears. On top of that, L'Jarius Sneed, he's been franchise tagged, which means the number 1 corner, it's Fuller. The Spotrac market value on Fuller is $13.6 million, and the reason why that I'm going to sign him is because Pierce said that finding a cornerback 1 is a priority, and with Fuller being the top corner on the market, that's why I ended up going this route here. And I like a lot of the corners in this year's draft. I love me some Terrion Arnold. I think Nate Wiggins is a dog. I think Quinion Mitchell. I literally did a show. Rakestraw from Missouri. These are corners that I consider legit cornerback 1s. But again, if the plan is to get Jaden Daniels, you're not going to have an opportunity to get those guys. And if I'm already saying, well, we might need a right tackle or we might need other positions, but you're giving up a lot of your picks to go up and get Jaden, you're not going to have a lot of those high priority picks. Like, are you going to potentially rely on a cornerback 1 that you're going to get in round 4 again? Like, no, I'm not going to do that. So because of this, because it's a big priority for Antonio Pierce, finding a corner that's played over 1,000 snaps, he's got legit versatility in 3 straight seasons, this is why I'm going to spend that extra money and go get Fuller. So I had $26.7 million. I spent $13.6 on Fuller, and I got $13.1 million left to spend here in free agency. I originally filmed this video live, and part of my perfect free agency plan was the Las Vegas Raiders signing linebacker Drue Tranquill because of his connections with Tom Telesco and the fact that he's been a part of the AFC West. However, since I ended this show on live, Tranquill ended up signing a 3-year deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. So I had to make a little bit of an adjustment here. And the way that I did this video was based off of contract projections. Tranquill was projected to get a $5 million contract. Lavonte David, according to PFF, also is projected to get a $5 million contract. I get it. David is 34 years old. He's up there in age, but he's still playing at a very high level. On top of that, the Raiders linebacker coach, Mike Caldwell, back from 2019 to 2021, was the inside linebacker coach for Tampa Bay. So he does already have some of those connections with Lavonte David. So the way that this show is going to go from here on out, basically, Jeremy and I are going to cut a little bit of a part here. For the remainder of the show, when you see sign Drue Tranquill, just think of that as sign Lavonte David. The money's the exact same, so in terms of all the other numbers that you're going to see, they remain the exact same. So again, I am replacing Drue Tranquill, because sometimes you got to have a plan B, with Lavonte David, a part of my perfect free agency plan. Also, it's going to get a little bit funky here around some of the things with Josh Jacobs. I am going to offer Jacobs a team-friendly deal. And realistically, if Jacobs takes my team-friendly deal at $8.6 million, the free agency plan's done. I said it was a 10-step plan. Nope, 8-step plan. If Josh Jacobs is willing to take my deal at $8.6 million, because I know Jacobs wants to remain a Raider. I know the Raiders want to keep Josh Jacobs. However, yes, Jacobs deserves more money, and this is him taking a team-friendly deal. But then again, if Jacobs is saying all these things of how he wants to remain a Raider, well, if you're going to talk the talk, it's time to walk the walk. And I want him to take a team-friendly deal coming off a year where he had the worst year of his entire career. My offer to Jacobs would be 3 years, $25.8 million, with $21.5 million guarantee. I spoke with Jacobs' team earlier in the week, and they told me that they would be on board with taking a 3-year deal if 2 of it was guaranteed. Well, how about this? Since I'm going to ask for a little bit less money on a yearly basis, I'm willing to give you 2 years guaranteed with another year half guaranteed. So that way, if it doesn't work out, you can then move on from Jacobs if you want. You cut him for $4 million. Jacobs still gets that type of money. But the bottom line is Antonio Pierce wants to keep him. I want to keep Josh Jacobs here. But the Raiders are not in a situation to pay a running back this big-time money. So if both sides are willing to get a deal done and compromise, I'm willing to get one done as well. Coming up, my final 2 steps in case Jacob says no, because I do think all good plans, you got to have plan B, right? You got to have plan B. So what happens if Jacob says, nope, I'm not taking that team-friendly deal? Well, if he's not willing to take a team-friendly deal, then he's not going to be a part of the Las Vegas Raiders as far as me if I was the one handling the checkbook here. So I got 2 more steps in case Jacob says no. I do want to give a shout-out to some real ones, though. So shout out to GFF30, VT Holmes, El Tiburon, Matt M, and then Cloud98. I told Chip, Chip, let's go look at some of the comments here and some of your favorite comments that you see, people that are always liking the video, people that are always, showing love on the streams. I want you to put those 5 people on this show. So to these people right here, shout out to all of y'all. I see you. I appreciate that very, very much. Let's go to number 9 on the list. It's Ollie Gilman, and safety from the Chargers last season. He also played football at Notre Dame. Again, very smart and intelligent player. I do think that he's coming off probably the best year that he's ever going to have in regards to what type of season he has, but I can get him at cheap, $3.8 million. He did finish PFF this past year with an 86.1 grade, which is very impressive. And the fact that Telesco likes him, he's already got that relationship. And for the Raiders, he's not going to be a starter. It's just adding a little bit more depth, adding a little bit more security there on the back end. So Ollie Gilman is number 9 on my step plan here, which means the final, and I mean the final plan here. Oh, actually, I got to do the math. That's on me. So I had $8.6 million. Again, this is based off if Jacob says no. $8.6 million minus $3.8 million, which means I am left with $4.8 million for my final step. And my final step here for the Raiders free agency is I'm going to go out and I'm going to sign Kyle Van Noy. Kyle Van Noy has experience playing with Rob Leonard. He did not play with the Dolphins when Patrick Graham was there. However, Patrick Graham does have a lot of connections with New England. Kyle Van Noy does have some connections back from his time in New England. But even though he's 34 years old, he offers you a lot of versatility. He can get after the quarterback. He can drop back into coverage. He can stop the run. He's played on multiple different types of defenses. So to me, I know that he's got a lot of connections with Telesco because Van Noy also played 1 year with the Chargers, so he has some of that AFC West experience. If I can add a veteran that's still playing at a high level, who's a very intelligent player, who can be that player coach, I am going to do it every single day of the week. So final money left to spend, $4.8 million minus $3.3, which means I only have $1.5 million left. I know it's going to make some people a little bit, oh, man, Mitch, you don't got a lot of money left to spend. But remember, I saved some money. So you add that 1.5 plus the $12 million in draft plus the 15 just in case money, and I got $28.5 million to be able to address the draft, contract restructures, all this other just in case type of money. I don't know about you, but I think that's a pretty damn good plan to put the Raiders going in the right direction. However, anytime I do a show like this, and I mean anytime I do a show like this, I always want to know what you guys have to say, what you're thinking about each move. So I'm going to roll through here my Raiders free agency plan, and I want you to grade it. A, B, C, D, or F. Remember, I'm cutting the fat. So Jimmy Garoppolo, Hunter Renfrow, all of them. I'm signing Christian Wilkins, Damien Lewis, re-sign Illuminor, Greg Van Roten to add to that offensive line a little bit. Then I'm going to sign Kendall Fuller, Drew Tranquill, offer Jacobs a team-friendly deal. If he takes it, the deal's done. Plan's done. If not, let's go get Gilman. Let's go get Kyle Van Noy. I want you to grade this A, B, C, D, or F. However, there is another important part of this. If I'm going to do a free agency plan, I also have to keep in mind what the draft ends up looking like. So this plan was based on the Raiders trading up, going to get Jaden Daniels. I also want to try to find a starting offensive guard. So if the Raiders, let's say, got to move picks first round and your second round pick, if I'm in the third round, I'm taking an offensive guard there to put as your starting right guard. Then I'm going to look for a day 3 running back because we'll see what the Josh Jacobs situation is. So I'm talking like Marshawn Lloyd would be my number 1 pick in round 4. Drafted day 3 tight end. The Raiders ended up meeting with Theo Johnson from Penn State. Could be a name to keep in mind. And then I'm going to look for a day 3 athlete. Somebody that I just think is an absolute stud. Maybe I can use him in special teams. Maybe I can use him in the secondary. Maybe he's another depth piece at linebacker that Antonio Pierce can coach. This is my perfect Raiders free agency plan for 2024.